Thank you. Thank you, Roxanne. Good evening, councillors, staff, and members from general public. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Community and Culture Committee. Now I declare the meeting open at 6:03. The Council acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which this meeting is being held, as that are of the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation. Are there any apologies for tonight's meeting?
Madam Chair, Councillor Tegg has passed on his apologies for this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Tegg. Sending his apology. Can I please have a motion to accept this apology and grant leave of absence?
I'll move that, Madam Chair.
Seconded, Madam Chair.
Councillor.
That was Councillor Konjarski and Elmere.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, councillors.
Would you like to take a vote on that, Madam Chairperson?
Yeah, can I take a vote from each councillors?
I'm happy to do that on your behalf if you'd like, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you.
Councillor Liu, I will start with your vote, please, on accepting the apology for Councillor Tegg.
For, thank you.
Councillor Elmere.
For, thank you, Roxy.
Councillor Konjarski.
I'm for the motion.
Councillor Lansbury.
For the motion.
Councillor Mort.
For the motion.
Councillor Stratokopoulos.
For the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Wang.
For the motion. Thank you, Roxanne.
And I note that we do not have in attendance at the moment Councillor Smirdelli.
Councillor Smerdley, I think is having issues with his computer, but I think he's logging on, Roxanne.
Thank you. I'll keep an eye on his arrival time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roxy. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is being recorded for minute-taking purposes and is also being webcast live on Council's website. This recording will be made available on Council's website. The order of business is as shown in the agenda, which have been made available. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is open and the meeting is being broadcast live to the public on Council's website. In accordance with Section 4 of Council's Code of Meeting Practice, only if the meeting moves into a closed, that means confidential session, in accordance with Section 13 of the Code of Meeting Practice, with the public broadcasting of the meeting being suspended. Council Code of Meeting Practice prohibits the electronic recording of meetings without the express permission of Council. Now we're going to the part for disclosure of any interest. Do we have any councillors disclose any interest? Yeah, councillor, I've got in here, Councillor Lansbury disclosed non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in term COM 002-22 Community Property Report for the period 1st October 2021 to 31 December 2021, for the reason that her son is a coach and committee member at a Cars Park Football Club. The sub-licensee holder of the Charles Peary Reserve Amenities Building, as noted in the report. He also works out of the Football St. George office located at Jubilee Oval from time to time. And Football St. George is noted as the head licensee for Charles Peary Reserve. Councillor Lansbury will remain in the meeting and take part in consideration and voting on this item. Do any other councillors have any interest to declare?
No.
If not, we move on and proceed. Today, there are 2 speakers registered for tonight's meeting. I would remind the speakers that speakers have a 3-minute time limit. The first sound you hear, the first sound you hear indicate that you have 1 minute remaining. At the second sound, please conclude your comments. The first speaker will be Melissa Girvant. She's going to speak on the item COM 005-22, Georges River Place Names and Proposal, result of community consultation. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Georges River Council has a gender equity as a priority when naming places. We have multiple parks named after former male mayors and very few parks named after women. We're at least a decade off even having the opportunity to name a park after a female mayor. This is why I was disappointed to see 2 amazing Oatley residents who are female have not been considered for the naming of the former Oatley Bowling Club site. Both fought for better equality for women. Ruby Payne-Scott is an internationally known scientist for her pioneer work in radio physics and astronomy and is believed to be the first female radio astronomer. You'd be blown away by what you see when you Google her, just nothing about, no recognition that she was an amazing Oatley resident. She worked on World War II radar. She's the reason that Oatley appeared on the Bureau of Meteorology rain radar map. She was a champion of gender equity. She hid her marriage in order to keep working. She challenged not being able to wear pants to work. She was paid less than her male counterparts and had to resign from paid employment when she became a parent. She came to Oatley thanks to being a member of Miles Dunphy's bushwalking club, which allowed women to bushwalk with them. Amy York is the other candidate that should be looked at. In the 1940s, she stood for council election twice at a time when women were not expected to work, let alone stand for public office. Amy York was a teacher, a builder, a grocer, a social worker, a mother and a grandmother. She self-funded her trip to the 1946 International Women's Conference, where she presented the Australian Women's Rights Charter in Paris. Amy York campaigned for children's welfare across our LGA. She campaigned for baby health centres, children's libraries and daycare centres in Oatley and beyond. Mrs York walked the streets of Hurstville to find council a suitable location for its first childcare centre and was the president of the committee at the time of opening. She fundraised and helped open the first children's library in Hurstville as well. In the 1920s, Mrs York and her family spent their weekends volunteering their time to build the road on Frederick Street between Oatley Avenue and Oatley Parade, where many Oatley residents drive through today. She set up and helped run various community progress associations in Oatley, and in 1944, Amy worked with Miles Dunphy's Parks and Playground movement proposal to acquire the land upon which the former Oatley Bowling Club sits. Her name is on the bottom of the hand-drawn maps that are in the State Library collection. Oatley Bowling Club site was created due to community requests. The community has had to fight council to keep it in community hands. It does not seem appropriate to name it after a former councillor. The naming of the site after a former mayor seems one of convenience rather than a name of significance. I encourage the Hardiman family to plant a tree in Oatley Memorial Park to recognise his contributions. My family, the Derwent family, planted a tree in honour of the Derwents living in Oatley for 150 years and having a number of relatives fight in various world wars. I believe that both Ruby Payne-Scott and Amy York have both contributed significantly to the Oatley community, the Georges River Council community, and left a lasting legacy and have links to this park that should be recognised by council. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. I think we've got a second speaker, Graham Lowchie, speaking on the same item, COM 005-22, Georges River Place name and proposal, results of community consultation. Thank you, Mr. Lowchie. Hi, Mr. Lowchie.
Yes,
You're on the line.
thank you.
Graham, you can commence your address to the committee.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today on this proposal. I would like to disagree with the name proposed for the area where the former Oakley Bowling Club is situated. I should first state that I have nothing against Mr. Hardiman or recognising his service to the community. I'm sure that his service was valuable to the Cogger community and his military service recognition would be well deserved. My objection is just to naming a former Oakley Bowling Club site after him. When I first saw this naming proposal, I was surprised and dismayed. Surprised because they had not even considered that a new name was required for this area. The land on which the bowling club was situated was bought in the 1940s by Hurstville Council as a reserve, along with the rest of Miles Dumpy Reserve, after much lobbying by the local community, including Miles Dumpy, an Oakley West resident, and commonly referred to as the father of conservation in New South Wales. As far as I can see, the whole area is one reserve. However, I'll continue. Dismayed, as I have not heard of Arthur Hardiman, and for the following reason could not understand why the area should be named after him. From the information given in the council's proposal, Arthur Hardiman does not appear to have any connection with the former Oakley Bowling Club. Neither did he have any connection with Hurstville Council, as it was when the bowling club was established, nor when the land was purchased by the council. The GRC naming policy states that in part, names will be selected that represent the diversity of the region, including Aboriginal history, heritage and culture. I don't believe Mr. Hardiman fulfills these criteria, have nothing to do with bowling or the immediate area, do not seem to be Indigenous. Furthermore, the policy also states that appropriate name include the name of the person who made demonstrable contributions that delivered significant benefit to the community. That does not appear to apply to Mr. Hardiman as far as that the West is concerned. Much is made of Mr. Hardiman's war service. His contribution could be better recognised through a local military association. Therefore, I believe the area should be named after the founding of the club, or the preservation and protection from early developed proposals, or local Indigenous history. A founder of the club could be Mr. Ernie Sternhope, who was commonly referred to as the founder. The first clubhouse was designed by Milo Dumpy, son of Miles. Therefore, Milo Dumpy Reserve would be an appropriate name. As far as I know, there are no known Indigenous personages in this area, but I'm sure one could be found.
That is
finally, there is already a Hardiman Reserve in Hurstville, referred to the former Cogger City Council Local Park and Reserve Generic Plan of Management found on the council website. This reserve is near the railway overpass in Hurstville. I assume this is named after Arthur Hardiman. If there's any doubt on this, it should be researched. In this regard, I'll finish up by saying Section 4 of the Georgia River Place Naming Policy contains name assessment criteria. Subsection 4 states that council will not consider names that are one, already in use, or have a similar spelling, or sound names already in use. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham.
If there's any doubt on this, it should be researched. In this regard, finish up by saying Section 4 of the Georgia River Place Naming Policy contains names.
Sorry, he obviously still had a recording going in the background. He's now been removed from the meeting. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Graham. Now I move that the minutes of the Community and Culture Committee meeting held on Monday, the 8th November 2021, been confirmed. Can I have a mover?
I'm happy to move that, Madam Chair. It's Catherine Lansbury.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Can I have a seconder?
even though I wasn't on the previous committee, but I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Elmere. Can I call for the votes from each councillor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll ask for your vote first, please.
For
Councillor Elmere,
4.
Councillor Konjarski,
4.
Councillor Lansbury, Councillor Mort,
4.
Councillor Smerdley,
4.
Councillor Stratokopoulos, I'll come back to Councillor Stratokopoulos and Councillor Wang.
I didn't attend the previous meeting, so how can I confirm or I can't do that, right?
You can do it, and it is a requirement of the committee to confirm the minutes, but if you are relying on a person to confirm the accuracy and that they are a full and accurate record, you can rely on the advice of the director who is present, or indeed another councillor who was present at that meeting.
So what does that mean? So
I will ask, Councillor Lansbury's already moved the motion. Councillor Lansbury, you were present at the previous meeting.
Yes, I was.
Thank you. And I'll ask for the same collaboration, if I could please, from the director, Christy Dodd. You were present. Yes. And the minutes are a full and accurate record.
Yes, they are.
Thank you. I'll ask Councillor Wang if he's now willing to vote on this item.
Okay, I vote for it.
That's 4. Thank you. And I'll go back to Councillor Stratokopoulos. I can see you're online. If you're able to unmute, please, and confirm your vote for the item. I won't be able to record a vote from Councillor Stratokopoulos at this stage, but it is a unanimous, given that Councillor Stratokopoulos hasn't been able to respond.
Thank you. Thank you, Roxy. Now we move to committee report for tonight. COM 00222, Community Property Report for the period number 1st October 2021 to 31 December 2021. Can I have a mover for this item?
Madam Chair, may I ask a question, please, of the director?
Yes.
Hi, Ms. Dodd, it's Catherine Lansbury here. I just have a question about Part B.
Yeah.
I mean, because we've had these reports come to us sort of fairly regularly, I'm assuming every quarter, so I've been a member of this committee since its inception, I guess. I'm just confused about Part B, which, as you can see, says that consistent with the IPART, special rate variation approval, regular reporting of this administrative matter to council be discontinued to improve productivity and cost containment. I'm just curious as to how stopping providing this report to councillors would help with cost containment. Can you please clarify?
When sorry, that was echoing. Sorry. When the independent pricing and when we did the rate submission, we looked at efficiencies, and some of it was around operational matters that staff would then be preparing this report, as opposed to project work or liaising with the community. So it was one of the efficiencies that was found as part of that submission. So that regular ongoing reporting would be ceased moving forward. I think you're muted, Catherine. I can see that you're speaking, but
oh, sorry. Yes,
you're right.
Using not using a mouse, using a pad, so it's confusing. Yeah, look, I'm just not sure of how that would improve the efficacy of it, because I'm thinking that the information in the report would still have to be compiled for council's use to know where we're at every quarter, and just to sort of pass that on to councillors in the form of this report seems like a useful thing to do, because it just does concern me, because it's like another sort of step on the slippery slope to councillors not being all over and well informed about different things within certain directorates of council. So I'd like to foreshadow that. I'd like to move an amendment that we just go with part A, that council receives and notes the community report, because I, for one, would like to still receive this on a quarterly basis. So if other councillors might be of a mind to support that, I would like to remove part B, if that's possible.
So Councillor Lansbury, it does go on the hub, the councillor hub. Does that change your amendment?
So the report's still going to be created, but just not to this committee.
Not in this report format. So the information in it, in terms of any updated leases or licenses, can be on the councillor portal. It's just reducing the work of having to develop this particular report quarterly.
If the information is still available to us as councillors, that's okay. But I'm just a little sceptical that stopping providing this particular report to this committee is going to help us, claw back $4 million, if you know what I mean. It just sort of seems like if the information's already compiled, I don't see that it's a real problem to provide it to us at a council committee level, which obviously is in front of us, on a quarterly basis. So, yeah, maybe we should put it to the other committee.
Can I just add some further clarity on the issue of the report? When the work was done for the special rate variation, it came with a application to increase the rates income for council, but on the basis that we'd also find savings. So this report in itself, you're quite right, Council Lansbury, would not save us the $12 million we ultimately need to save, but we need a general approach to all the reports that we create in terms of value for money. So I think there have been some other reports that we now simply provide as required to the councillors, rather than creating a council report, which has to be considered twice. It goes to the committee and then the full council, and whether or not that's really adding any value to the consideration of council. So it's not just this report, because you're quite right, it's not going to save us the $12 million we ultimately need to find, but it's a contribution to that, and it's a general approach to all the reports that we create and the information we generate.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Weatherly. So the information would be updated on a quarterly basis to the website, or more of an annual basis, do you think? Is that determined?
I think the approach would be we would update the councillors via a note on the hub of any significant changes. But a report that simply says there's been no changes doesn't generate very much value for the councillors or the community. So we will be aiming to look for a way to only update you via the hub as a change occurs.
Okay, if that's the case, I'm happy with that, as long as the information is still available to us. And I guess if any of us had any particular questions, we could ask them. And it probably would also negate the need for me to keep putting in a disclosure every time it's reported to council. Okay, but okay, thank you. I'll throw it over to the other committee members.
So are you moving it, Catherine? I'm happy to second it that way.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Councillor Lansbury and seconded by Councillor Elmer.
I'm sorry, is that amended, taking out part B, or leaving it as it is?
Leaving it as it is, Lou.
Thank you.
Leave as it is on the report.
Yeah. Can I also just make a quick suggestion with regards to voting? Do we have to go through every single time with every, like reading out everyone's name, or can we just do it by exception if someone has against, then they can just let the chair know?
My only comment there, Councillor Elmer, there was an example raised in the last vote where Councillor Stratokopoulos wasn't able to respond.
Right.
If someone's not in a position to respond and we're assuming that they are online, they will be included in a unanimous vote even though they are not responsive to when the vote is called for. It would be my only comment. I agree for the speed. it would be good to avoid it, but I think the only way we can be sure that we're capturing every councillor's vote is to ask for them one by one.
Sure,
I
Staunton.
promise to be it as quick as possible.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank you,
Ms.
Roxy.
Staunton, we're all on video. Can we just go?
Put your hands
No.
up.
No, verbal is required.
Okay.
And
Roxy,
on that,
can
I'll
you-
ask for your vote. Thank you, Madam Chair, on this item.
4. Thank you.
Councillor Elmere,
4.
Councillor Konjarski,
4.
Councillor Lansbury,
4.
Councillor Mort,
4.
thank you, Councillor Smerdley,
4.
Councillor Stratokopoulos,
4.
and Councillor Wang.
4.
That's a unanimous vote.
Thank you. Thank you, Roxy. Now we move to COM 003-22, becoming a dementia-friendly council, dementia-friendly action plan. Can I have a
Like to move
move,
that,
please?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Elmere, seconded by Councillor Konjarski. Is there any councillors have any other questions or comments? If not, Roxy, can you call for the votes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Your vote.
4. Thank you.
Councillor Elmere,
4.
Councillor Konjarski,
4.
Councillor Lansbury,
4.
Councillor Mort,
4.
Councillor Smerdley,
4.
Councillor Stratokopoulos,
4.
and Councillor Wang.
4.
That's a unanimous vote.
Thank you. Thank you, Roxy. The next item will be COM 004-22, adoption of Georges River Early Learning Services Strategy 2021 to 2031. Can I call for a mover for these?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Elmere. Can I have a seconder?
I'll second that. It's Catherine Lansbury.
Thank you, Councillor Lansbury.
I have a question, Madam Chair. So I just want to understand what's maybe a question for the director. What's the repurposing of the early learning service asset? Just want some clarification about that one.
Yep, no problem. So that would be looking at our existing facilities and seeing if there was a way to either expand, enhance, or repurpose those facilities, keeping in line the principles of the strategy.
Okay, so are we talking about closing down some of them, or?
Not at this point. We would look at part of our plan is that we need to remain cost neutral, and we've just undertaken a lot of consultation around that. So no, we'll be continuing with the facilities we have at this point, but as we need to ensure that, you know, we're meeting our ever-changing landscape of the community, we need to, it's a 10-year plan, so that point's in there to make sure that we're maximising the facilities that we do have, and whether we need to repurpose one to enhance. There is a lot in there about children with additional needs. That's an area that we're looking at moving into more closely, so it's whether or not we need to repurpose a facility to meet that need in the community.
Okay, so do we have like a specific plan for a particular learning centers, or is just a general approach?
It's a general approach at this stage. It's a 10-year plan, so this is just based on the community consultation that we've done.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do we intend to sell any of those?
So not at this point.
Okay, so it's just general approach. So anything, it depends on the situation and the circumstances. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so that's just my clarification. Yeah. Anybody else has any questions?
No problem.
Thank you. If there are no more questions and further comments, can Roxy call for the votes?
Thank
Please.
you, Madam Chair. Your vote.
4. Thank you.
Councillor Elmere,
4.
Councillor Konjarski,
4.
Councillor Lansbury,
Sorry, 4.
That's okay. Councillor Mort.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Smerdley.
4.
Councillor Stratokopoulos.
4.
Councillor Wang.
4, thank you.
That's a unanimous vote.
Thank you, Roxy. Now we're going to the next item, COM 005-22, Georges River Place Names and Proposal, results of community consultation. Can I have a mover for this first?
I'd like to move that as it stands.
Thank you, Councillor Knjavski. And can I have a seconder for this?
Seconded, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor O'Meara. Is there any councillors have any questions and comments on this item?
Yeah,
Madam
yeah.
Chair, it's Catherine Lansbury. Oh, sorry.
You go.
No, go, Catherine.
I'll go first, and then I think it was Nat and Ben. Just based on the presentations that we heard earlier tonight, and firstly the one from Melissa Jowett, who mentioned a couple of local women whose names I think were Rudy Scott and Amy York, if that was correct. I think I recall seeing an email from Ms Jowett as well outlining some of that information. Do council officers have a record of those two for local residents? I mean, they sound like they're very worthy subjects to have somewhere named in their honour. So I'm just wondering, and I guess it's probably just a question and a statement, if we could perhaps consider the merit of those two women when an appropriate place comes up next time. Is that something we can do?
Hi, Councillor Lansbury. I'll answer that. Yes, so we do have, as part of our policy, we need to have an applicant provide an application to support something. So when something was needing to be named, if it was then brought forward at that point, we would then follow the process that we've currently done with the names in front of you.
So pretty much the fact that those two women have been brought to council's attention, maybe they could be considered next time, is my point. Is that something where I can... Sorry, was I on mute again? Sorry.
No, we could hear you. We could hear you. I think maybe it was Christy that was on mute. Christy?
Christy's still on mute.
Yep. Councillor Lansbury was just seeking clarification that those two ladies' names could be considered.
Yes, we can take. Sorry, it is me. We can take those names on board. Yes, sorry. The mask is also masking my mouth moving.
Yeah. Okay.
And then our officers would then take further research as per our normal process to make sure that they were appropriate names for a particular area.
Yeah.
In light of the Norm Proven and Johnny Raper having just passed regarding Jubilee, Nestrata Jubilee, shouldn't we look at something else, considering some other names or that are more inclusive of both of those legendary players, instead of just naming it Norm Proven Stand or Grandstand?
Look, this particular name has gone through the whole process. If there is to be someone requesting that we get a new application for Johnny Raper, then that would be assessed at that time.
Right. Thanks, Christy.
Yeah. So my question is, I heard from the public speaker, Graham, he said there's already a place named after Mr. Hardman. So why do we need the two places named after him?
I think that's in the report, Ben. I don't think that there is another place named after Arthur Hardiman. There is a street, but not another place.
Oh, there's another street named after him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Councillor Mourad. Yes, it is in the report, Councillor Wang.
So can I just, through you, Madam Chair, and just going back to Councillor Lansbury's point, it's great that those two women that were mentioned by our two public speakers earlier are noted for future reference. But from my understanding is that the process actually involves for someone when there is something to be named, that there is an application process that needs to be submitted. So possibly if Melissa and the other speaker was still online, that's important. If wanting to recognise those two individuals, for them to make applications for future place naming processes. Is that correct, Christy? That an application actually has to come in rather than
That's right, Councillor.
instigating the process? Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Any comments on this item? If not, can I call for a mover for this?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Your vote.
For.
Councillor Elmere.
For.
Councillor Konjawski.
For, thank you.
Councillor Lansbury.
For.
Councillor Mort.
For.
Councillor Smerdley.
For.
Councillor Stratokopoulos.
For.
And Councillor Wang.
For.
That's a unanimous vote.
Thank you. Thank you, Roxy. I think that's the last item. All right.
There is one more item.
Yeah. That's
Madam
right.
Chair.
Yeah. So the next item will be COM 00622, review of Georges River Community Strategic Plan, community engagement outcomes. Can I have a mover for these first?
So moved, Madam Chair. It's actually a really good plan.
Thank you, Councillor Elmere, and thank you. Seconded by Councillor Konjawski. Thank you. Any other councillors? Any particular questions and comments on it before we call for the votes? No? Then Roxy, can you call for the votes from each councillor?
Of course. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start with your vote.
For. Thank you.
Councillor Elmere.
For.
Councillor Konjawski.
For, thank you.
Councillor Lansbury.
For.
Councillor Mort.
Against.
Against. Thank you. Councillor Smerdley.
For.
Councillor Stratokopoulos.
For.
And Councillor Wang.
For.
Thank you. That is 7 votes for, 1 against.
Thank you, Roxy. Thank you. So now, there being no other business on this agenda, so I declare this meeting closed at 6:41. Thank you. Thank you, councillors, staff, and members of the general public. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.